The quiet observer. Have you ever noticed that one person in your life who never seems to need anything from anyone? They're always there when you need them, but when things get tough for them, they just disappear into silence. You might think they're just independent or maybe even cold. But what if I told you that behind that silence lies one of the most powerful psychological traits a person can develop? Today, we're diving deep into the hidden strength of people who rarely ask for help. And by the end of this video, you might recognize yourself, or understand someone you love, in a completely different way. Let's start with a simple truth. We live in a world that constantly tells us to reach out, to share our struggles, to ask for support. But there's a group of people who've learned to walk a different path. Not because they don't value connection, but because somewhere along the way, they discovered something most people never find, the ability to be their own anchor in the storm. But where does this trait actually come from? The answer might surprise you. The origin story. This silent strength doesn't appear overnight. It's forged through experience, often beginning in childhood. Research in developmental psychology shows that people who rarely ask for help typically had one of two early experiences. The first group grew up in environments where asking for help simply didn't yield results. Maybe their parents were overwhelmed, emotionally unavailable, or dealing with their own struggles. These children learned early that crying for help didn't bring comfort, so they stopped crying. They learned to soothe themselves, to solve their own problems, to become emotionally self-sufficient before they even understood what that meant. The second group had a different experience. They grew up with high expectations placed upon them. They were the responsible one, the mature kid, the one everyone relied on. Asking for help felt like failing, like letting people down. So they learned to carry their burdens silently, wearing strength like armor. Both paths lead to the same destination, a person who has mastered the art of self-reliance. But here's what's fascinating, this isn't just about survival. Over time, something remarkable happens. What started as a coping mechanism transforms into genuine capability. And that transformation creates something psychologists are only beginning to fully understand. The hidden psychology. When you consistently solve your own problems, your brain literally rewires itself. Neuroscience research shows that repeated self-reliance strengthens neural pathways related to problem-solving, emotional regulation, and stress tolerance. It's like building muscle, except you're building mental resilience. People who rarely ask for help develop what psychologists call internal locus of control. This means they genuinely believe they have the power to influence outcomes in their life. While others might feel like victims of circumstance, these individuals see themselves as the architects of their own solutions. But there's more. These people also develop exceptional emotional regulation skills. When you can't call someone every time you feel anxious or overwhelmed, you learn to process those emotions internally. You develop your own toolkit, breathing techniques, perspective shifts, self-talk strategies, often without even realizing you're doing it. Think about it, most people outsource their emotional processing. They need to vent, to be validated, to hear someone say, "It's going to be okay." But people with this silent strength? They've learned to give themselves what others seek externally. They've become both the question and the answer. But this strength comes with a price that few people talk about. The double-edged sword. Here's the uncomfortable truth, the same trait that makes these people incredibly resilient can also isolate them in ways they don't always recognize. When you're known as the person who has it all together, people stop checking on you. They assume you're fine. They assume you don't need support. And over time, you might even start believing that yourself, that needing help is weakness, that vulnerability is failure. Psychologists call this compulsive self-reliance, and it can be just as problematic as complete dependence. These individuals often struggle with intimacy because true closeness requires vulnerability. They might have many acquaintances but few deep connections, because they never let anyone see them struggle. There's also a hidden exhaustion that comes with this trait. Carrying everything alone is heavy. These people often don't realize how tired they are until they're completely burned out, because they've become so accustomed to functioning under pressure that they've lost touch with their own limits. And here's perhaps the saddest part: many of these people secretly wish someone would notice their struggle without them having to ask. They want someone to see through their armor, to offer help unprompted, to recognize that just because they can handle everything alone doesn't mean they should have to. So how do you know if you're one of these people? Let's look at the signs. The unmistakable signs. If this resonates with you, here are the patterns you'll recognize. First, you feel uncomfortable receiving help even when you need it. Someone offers assistance and your immediate reaction is, "I've got it," or, "Don't worry about me," even when you're drowning. Second, you pride yourself on being low maintenance. You've built your entire identity around not being a burden. You'd rather struggle in silence than inconvenience someone for 5 minutes. Third, you're everyone's rock, but you don't have one yourself. People come to you with their problems constantly, and you're always there for them. But when your world is falling apart, you face it alone because you genuinely don't know how to let people in. Fourth, you've mastered the art of deflection. When someone asks, "How are you?" you've perfected the response that sounds genuine but reveals nothing. "I'm good. How are you?" You redirect attention before anyone can look too closely. Fifth, you have a complicated relationship with trust. It's not that you don't trust people's intentions, you don't trust that they'll actually be there when it matters. You've learned that the only reliable person is yourself. And finally, you feel a strange mix of pride and loneliness about your independence. You're proud of your strength, but sometimes you wonder what it would feel like to truly share your burden with someone else. But here's what most people don't understand about this strength: the misunderstood power. Society often misreads these people. They're called closed off, or emotionally unavailable, or too independent. But that's not the full picture. The truth is, people who rarely ask for help have developed something rare and valuable: they've learned to separate their worth from others' opinions and approval. They don't need constant validation because they've built an internal validation system that actually works. They've also developed crisis management skills that others never build. When everyone else is panicking, they're the ones thinking clearly, breaking down problems, finding solutions. This isn't because they're smarter, it's because they've had to practice this skill set their entire lives. There's also a deep wisdom that comes from self-reliance. When you've sat with your own pain, processed your own emotions, and solved your own problems repeatedly, you develop genuine empathy. You understand struggle in a way that people who've always had support simply can't. You don't offer empty platitudes, you offer real understanding. And perhaps most importantly, these people have learned one of life's most valuable lessons: that you can be both strong and kind, both independent and loving, both self-sufficient and connected. Their strength isn't about rejecting others, it's about not needing others to define them. So if you recognize yourself in this description, here's what you need to know. The path forward. If you're someone who rarely asks for help, understand this: your strength is real, but it doesn't have to be isolating. The goal isn't to abandon your self-reliance, it's to add vulnerability to your toolkit. Think of it this way: you've mastered the art of being strong alone. Now imagine how powerful you could be if you occasionally allowed yourself to be strong together with someone else. Start small. Practice asking for help with low-stakes things. Let someone buy you coffee. Accept a ride when you could take an Uber. Allow a friend to listen when you're having a bad day. Not because you can't handle it alone, you've proven you can, but because connection requires reciprocity. Understand that asking for help isn't weakness, it's actually a sign of evolved emotional intelligence. It means you're secure enough in your strength that you don't need to prove it constantly. Also, recognize that some people in your life actually want to support you. They feel honored when you trust them with your struggles. By always being strong, you're sometimes robbing them of the opportunity to give back what you've given them. And finally, give yourself permission to rest. Your worth isn't determined by how much you can carry alone. You don't have to earn the right to receive support. You're valuable simply because you exist, not because of what you can endure. And for those of you who love someone like this. For those who love them. If you have someone in your life who rarely asks for help, understand that their silence isn't rejection, it's protection. They're not trying to push you away, they're trying not to burden you. Don't wait for them to ask for help, they probably won't. Instead, offer specific support. Don't say, "Let me know if you need anything." Say, "I'm bringing you dinner Thursday. What time works?" The specificity removes the need for them to ask. Notice when they're struggling, even when they pretend they're not. These people are masters of disguise, but if you pay attention, you'll see the cracks. The forced smile. The extra coffee. The cancellation of plans. The slightly delayed responses. These are their silent calls for help. Be patient with their discomfort when receiving support. They might resist, deflect, or try to repay you immediately. This isn't ingratitude, it's unfamiliarity. They're learning a new language, and it takes time. And most importantly, don't make them feel weak for finally being vulnerable. If they open up to you, treat it like the gift it is. They've trusted you with something they rarely share. Honor that trust by simply being present, without judgment, without trying to fix everything, without making it about you. The quiet revolution. People who rarely ask for help have developed something our world desperately needs, the ability to stand firm in themselves while the world spins around them. They've learned that true strength isn't about never falling, it's about knowing you can get back up, with or without help. But the most powerful version of this strength? It's when these people finally allow themselves to be both independent and connected. When they realize that asking for help occasionally doesn't erase all the times they've been strong alone. When they understand that vulnerability isn't the opposite of strength, it's the completion of it. So whether you're someone who carries the world on your shoulders, or you love someone who does, remember this: silent strength is real, it's powerful, and it's valid. But so is the strength to sometimes say, "I could use some help." If this video resonated with you, let me know in the comments. Are you the person who rarely asks for help? Or do you love someone like this? I read every comment, and I'd love to hear your story. And if you found value in this, subscribe for more psychology content that helps you understand yourself and the people around you better. Remember, you're not alone in standing alone. But you don't always have to. I'll see you in the next video.